Hey, hello, Juan Carlos. You actually wrote a real sentence, which is rare, like it's legible. So I'm going to give you a personalized video response. Here's what I wrote, and I've watched a few of these, and they make me cry sometimes to see the reaction. But it seems to be a lot of it relates to money. So yesterday, like I'll read you what I wrote and what you wrote, and then I'll tell you what I thought about yesterday could possibly happen in my life, and that might provide you the answer. You know, I do not appreciate how your channel equates hope for humanity and kind acts as always involving the monetary paradigms. Now, I'm not sure if you're responding on behalf of this channel, if you're the channel, but it is kind of addressed to the channel. I can't afford to help people with money that I do not have, all while I plead with them to let me help them by offering my services free of charge for the sake of their own children. Does that make me a person who isn't altruistic enough? And by the way, I deserve respect for the altruism I do that don't have any benefits to me and often that actually creates obstacles for me. But maybe your comment kind of almost shows like you're ready to attack somebody like that to defend somebody else's altruism. I would love to find a country that would sponsor a visa for me and take care of my expenses for volunteering while there for many months. So then, have you heard of people with money who would help others by facilitating this? Are you such a helper, Professor Marty? By the way, I can provide documentation that when I went to volunteer in Vietnam, all they were interested in is try to apply for funding, maybe government sources, maybe not, using, my passport information and things like that. And it happened to me in other countries too. And, it's the monetary paradigm moving things around with the illusion that there's a volunteer here that we're grateful for, but really the people in charge were just wanting to kind of move money around with my identity and often sabotaging the work I was doing meant to benefit their own people. Good for you, but why do you pretend to stand as a moral authority to say which are better or worse forms of charity? Now, you're mentioning charity, so we have to kind of define it. Like, let's say we define it as altruistic acts. Then it's about the act, right? And if the act is about opening your wallet, to make oneself feel good, then I would say that if you don't open your wallet, but you make a choice that's different than how, let's say, you plan to spend your day or the rest of your life, I think that's more meaningful. The other thing I'm saying is that yesterday I imagined, what if I do write the book that I've been rebelling against writing for so long because of how it would be kind of overlooked, not read, or just create additional enemies in my life as somebody who is outside of the norm. I said, well, what if it picks up and it's the right time of history to ride a wave that the people primates, the failed species I share DNA with, the Homo communia, what if they're ready for this and then I get invited or interviewed, except I don't travel to places because that's counterproductive to my beliefs a lot of the time. I mean, I like traveling. It's just if people want to pay for a trip for me to go to New York to be a guest on something from here, is like, that's crazy. I mean, even if you pay me $1 million, I'd be going against my views to actually like take a plane for a short interview, things like that. Let's do things online. Now, let's say one of the questions of the interviewers is it true you didn't make any money with your book? And I would say, yes, I promised this years ago on my vlogs that if I write a book, I will arrange that all the expenses of publishing the book is covered, if it sells, but also there's a reasonable but not excessive profit margin from whatever publishing company, but I would get nothing. But this book would be for me to maybe be a public speaker where some reasonable amount that is still very small compared to the norm of famous people, very, very small, because I'm not a big consumer and I don't want to start being a person that moves large sums of money around. And, my assets will always be, even after publishing this book, be less than the norm. And not just the norm of, well, definitely the norm of famous people, but even the norm of the average person, let's say my age, living in a country such as mine. So then I would say I choose, I mean, other people might choose to define philanthropy as something they do for a tax write-off with the strategy of selling an image they're a great person. So when I look at this channel, okay, and there's been a couple of dozen comments, and the channel itself did not respond to me directly, I have to say, Juan, yeah, I'm not sure we define philanthropy the same way. I define it as being there, a helper for others, being of service without any benefits to you that people might not even know about, and definitely don't include rewards. Like if this channel, Hopeful and Humanity, if it makes money making all these short videos, maybe selling ads or being part of a monetary system on YouTube, when I am not, then yes, I think there is a difference. And I think the humanity lies more in the non-profit form of charity. Okay, so I hope you get my answer a little bit more now.